Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be talking about the latest around Alabama and what Nick Saban's retirement means going forward for the Tide. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so around Wednesday afternoon, Nick Saban announced that he'd be stepping away from Alabama and finally announced his retirement. I think the majority of the college football fans around the country, they kind of had a feeling this was coming. They just didn't know when. Me personally, I thought he was going to go out on top. Maybe if they won the title next season in 2024, he would retire after the season. That was not the case. He decided to call it quits now. He cited multiple reasons for it. One was his age. He is getting up there in age at 72. He did say it's a lot different than 10 years ago when he was 62 to do his job. Another reason was just the overall landscape of college football is really changing with NIL and the transfer portal. It's a lot, and to be honest, I think college football is a lot harder to manage than the NFL. And back when Nick Saban signed up for the Alabama job, I'm sure he had no idea that the sport that we love would eventually come to this. What it has, like the roster management, it's year round. You have to recruit not only high school players, not only players in the portal, but also your own team. And I think that's a big reason why he retired. At the same time, I don't think he's going to step away fully, as it has been reported. He will be around the team. He's going to stick it out and be a part of the program. And I think that's a big deal, just to keep, this is a very talented roster, so just keeping these guys around is a big deal. You got guys like Caleb Downs. That was probably the hardest guy Nick Saban had to go until he was retiring. Not every day Nick Saban starts a true freshman, right? And that's just a good example of a player that, hey, Nick Saban leaves. Is he going to enter the portal? All eyes are on him. And as I'm recording this, Isaiah Bond actually just entered the portal, which is a pretty big deal, given he's probably the best receiver on Alabama headed into next season, and he's no longer there. You can always come back, but I just think losing Nick Saban is going to have a ripple effect throughout college football that we really haven't seen before. Obviously, when the news broke on Wednesday, a list of candidates came out, headlined by Dan Lanning, Mike Norvell. You had Kalen DeBoer on there. Steve Sarkisian was mentioned. Then, on Thursday, Dan Lanning, the head coach at Oregon, he immediately shut those rumors down in the mid-afternoon, posting a video saying he was going to stay at Oregon. So then everyone's attention shifted to Mike Norvell, and on Thursday morning, he did sign an extension with Florida State. The same with Steve Sarkisian. So, in the end, I think it worked out pretty good for those two. They made more money with their name being linked to the job. And then, at around, I want to say 2 o'clock on Friday, Kalen DeBoer announced that he was going to leave Washington and become the next head coach at Alabama. Now, when this job opened, everyone asked who would want to be the successor to Alabama, who would want to follow the GOAT, the greatest of all time, something that we really haven't seen before. Now, I think Kalen DeBoer is the type of coach, and I think we've seen that, he's proven it, that he's a winner. Like, he's going to win no matter what. He's won at all levels. He won at Sioux Falls, he won at Fresno State, and then he came to Washington, and he just kept winning. He went to the national title game. They went 14-1 this year. Outstanding season. They had a Heisman candidate quarterback in Michael Penix Jr. A lot of NFL talent that's leaving, and I think that played a role in him leaving as well. When you look at Washington's roster, they're not going to be in a great spot headed into next season. You lose Michael Penix, as I mentioned. You lose Rome Odunze, Jalen McMillan, Jalen Polk. Just on offense, Dylan Johnson also entered the draft. Running back. Braylon Trice is gone, the superstar edge rusher. So overall, the roster was not in a good spot. And an underrated part of him leaving, I think, is that the athletic director that hired him is no longer at Washington. And I think that's a very big deal and played a big role in him leaving. That AD, that athletic director that hired him, isn't now at USC. So maybe the relationship wasn't quite the same. Maybe Kalen DeBoer wouldn't have had the same leeway. Maybe if they went 8-4 and 9-3 next year, maybe there's going to be more question marks and the relationship just wouldn't have been steady. Nonetheless, he's the next coach at Alabama. What does that mean for Crimson Tide fans and the people around the program down there? Well, like I said, you're getting a winner. You're getting a guy that's won everywhere he's been. And I think that's going to pay off the moment he steps on campus. first thing he's probably going to tell the guys down there is, we're not going to take a step back. What's the expectation? What's the standard? We're going to meet that. I think they will. I think they're going to be in the playoff next year. There's no reason they shouldn't be, given they keep this roster together. I'll get to that in just a little bit. But I think the biggest thing for Kalen DeBoer is he hasn't recruited at a high enough level that I'm convinced he'll keep Alabama in the top 5, top 10 recruiting classes. Now, I get Alabama's Alabama, and the school can recruit itself to some extent. But down in the South, you have LSU with Brian Kelly. You have obviously Kirby Smart. Mike Elko's at A&M. Steve Sarkisian's at Texas. Hugh Freeze is killing it on the recruiting trail right now. Going after the top receivers. It's the top talent in Louisiana, Alabama, Florida. He's absolutely killing it down there. You have Mike Norvell and Mario Cristobal. They're not in your conference, but they're in the same region. And I think that's a pretty big deal. So we're going to have to see what his staff looks like. I think the best way to go would definitely keep some key positional coaches on that Alabama staff around. I almost think you have to. You can bring Ryan Grubb from Washington to be your offensive coordinator. I would almost prefer that if I was an Alabama fan, to have some familiarity with the head coach and the offensive coordinator. What does that mean for Tommy Rees, right? Tommy Rees, 1 year as the offensive coordinator at Alabama. Pretty good year after the rocky start. He really turned Jalen Milroe around, and I'd assume Jalen Milroe was going to stay around Alabama, stick this one out, especially seeing that they hired a quarterback-friendly coach. Nonetheless, I think keeping this roster together and hitting the portal for positional needs, just as Nick Saban or any other coach would have done, is going to be very important for Kalen DeBoer. But at the bottom line is you have to keep this roster together, because Ryan Day is going to come calling, Kirby Smart's going to come calling, Brian Kelly's going to come calling, Hugh Freeze, Dan Lanning just got mentioned. What did he say? He said, "You're afraid your coach is leaving? Come play for us." Stuff like that. And Mike Norvell's going to take his shots too. He just got an offensive lineman from Alabama, Terrence Ferguson, just yesterday. Looking at guys like Keon Keeley, Caleb Downs, Aiden Proctor, a one-time Iowa commit, who was also looking at Ohio State. Caleb Downs, he was looking at Georgia, looking at Ohio State. Keon Keeley, he was a Notre Dame commit, and it came down to Ohio State, Alabama. So there's some very talented players on this roster that are going to have a lot of attention on them, whether they're going to stick it out or not. And I think recruiting your own team is going to be priority number 1 for Kalen DeBoer. I think he's a very good hire, like I mentioned. Alabama fans, let me know down in the comments how you guys feel. College football fans, and it's going to take some getting used to Alabama not having Nick Saban, obviously. Let me know your thoughts and replacements for Washington. There's going to be a lot of suitors for that. Let me know down in the comments who you think will replace Kalen DeBoer out there. And be sure to leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel if you're new, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.